Now we're going to talk about darts, and not the kind you throw. Darts are when you take sort of a pinch out of a piece of fabric so that you take something that wants to lay flat and make it curve. So this is what you're going to find usually on women's blouses at the side of the bust line. You may find them at the top of the hips, but they're usually to help make fabric curve around the curves of the body. So when you lay out a pattern and you cut it out, they're usually going to show you where they want the darts with just a few little circles. So you would transfer those markings. Now, I'm going to tell you that if you are a beginning sewer, go ahead and prime yourself for success by getting something and going ahead and drawing the lines of your dart. Now, I'm using an ink pen, present from a student. I'm using an ink pen so that you can see this. I would suggest you get a disappearing ink marker or some chalk or something that will go away eventually. But if you go ahead and draw your lines, it's going to give you a cheat to make your dart neater. So I've drawn my lines, and now I know that this line and this line are going to be matched up. And when we get done, we'll show you how that makes it make a nice neat curve around the body. So hold tight for just a second while I grab some pens. The reason I said to go ahead and draw your lines is it's going to make your pinning a lot easier. So you might want to zoom in a little closer here. So the first thing that I would do if I were making this dart is I would go through this circle and make sure that my pen comes out the circle on the other side, like that. And then I would come down here and fold so that this bottom point circle is right on the edge. And I'm going to take a pen and I'm going to go backwards with it, meaning I'm going to leave the head of the pen off the edge of the fabric. Now, when I reposition this with that folded, now I know everything's pretty nicely lined up. So to make sure that I get this thing as accurate as I possibly can, this is why I draw my lines. I'm going to stick my pen through this side, flip over here. Oop, I'm not on that line. So what I need to do is adjust until I'm going through the line on the front side and out of the line on the back side. Once I have that done, I'm going to put my pen. Okay. Now, the first couple, you're going to have to spend more time lining up, and as you go, the closer it's going to be. So there, front, I'm through the line, back, I'm through the line, now pen. Okay, and you do use more pens for darts than you do a lot of other tasks. So, next one, through the line on the front, adjust just a tiny bit, through the line on the back, pin. Okay, if you will take the time to do this now, you will end up with a much better result than if you don't, okay? And then I'm going to do my last pin here. Okay, everything's nice. Now, all of my pins have the heads going to the left except my point, which has the right. And this is a visual indicator for me. When I get to the sewing machine, it's a cue for me to stop. So my dart is pinned. It's pinned neatly, and I'm right through the centers, so we're going to move to the sewing machine. Now, when you go to sew darts, you're going to be sewing straight down this line. So go ahead and get your fabric lined up so you're straight. But you always sew from the fattest end of the dart to the narrowest end, okay? So I'm going to get lined up and I'm going to drop my needle right on that line that I have been so careful about, making sure my stitch length is on an average stitch for this fabric, which is about a 2, 2 1/4. And I'm going to go ahead and stitch bit and back stitch, and I'm going to go right down that line that I drew with my pen, and that will make sure that I'm keeping my dart as accurate as possible. Now I'm going to continue to do that until I get to the pin before my visual cue. Okay. Once I see that visual cue pin, I'm going to change things up a little bit. I'm going to drop my stitch length. If you want to come over here and look, I'm going to drop my stitch length down pretty short. The reason I'm going to do that is I'm going to stitch the rest of this dart aiming to run off this fabric right where my marker is. So if I need to get close, if I'm nervous, I can always stop and hand roll off. Okay, and just keep rolling until you are off the edge of that fabric. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to pull up, and I want you to leave yourself pretty long tails, okay? Once you've got those tails, you can look and you can check yourself. I went right down my line here, And right there, I went right down my line. So that's a nice, neat dart. Okay, I'm gonna pull my pins. I'm gonna use this one to go down here to these little tiny stitches and separate these two threads that my tag's coming off the end, okay? And when I do, I will have these two threads and I'm gonna tie them in the tiniest little knot. So just your old school granny knot. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. Just tie it off. So that leaves that tiny, you can see that itty bitty knot right there. That's all we want. And then I'm gonna clip everything else. Now, what is that done on the front side? Well, on the front side, what we have, oh, we got these fuzzies that I didn't cut off the fabric to begin with. I apologize. What we're gonna see on the front side is we're gonna see a clean, neat dart, and then we're gonna go over to the ironing board here in just a minute and show you how to iron it out. There you go. There, when I pull it out, you can see that it's just almost invisible. And because I did this tiny little knot here, I should not have any bulk at the point. You want it to just kind of end without there being any sort of indication that there's extra thread back there. I did not get that fuzzy out. There we go. Oh, there he's coming out. Okay, so off to the ironing board. And we want to turn our fabric this way. And the first thing that we're gonna do is lay our dart that we've sewn down, and we're gonna get this edge of it flat and neat, nice and crisp. Okay. Okay, so got that razor sharp. Now we wanna iron it open. So I'm going to open my fabric on my right side and I'm gonna fold the bulk of my dart one way or the other. Now different patterns will tell you to fold it different ways for different applications. Don't panic, just do what it tells you. Okay, now I'm gonna spread this out with my hands so I can see what I'm doing, and I'm gonna take my iron and I'm going to iron from the side without the bulk toward the side with the bulk, spreading the fabric as I go. Now, as I do this and apply lots of steam, it's gonna make that where that just almost disappears. The only reason you can really see it is because there's a pattern. Now I get to this little point down here. When I get to my little point, I'm gonna take my fingers, get in here really close, and I'm just gonna use the kind of rounded tip of my iron to iron that until it disappears. Then I'm gonna flip over and I'm gonna do the exact same thing. I'm gonna iron it down and then use the tip of my iron to do that little corner. And that will give you a very neat, nice dart. And if you can see how the fabric now curves, you can see how that would be great if you were putting that like on the side of a skirt where your hip is, or side of a bust dart. So there you go, there's a dart.